it's time to commence the inauguration of the 7th International Online Buddhist Conference, USA IBC 2022, organized by the Bhiksu of Sri Lanka and Radhapura. The Bhiksu of Sri Lanka organized this online forum commemorating its 50th anniversary, making together the national and international intellectuals, opening a scholarly opportunity to address the strengths, weaknesses, and challenges of Buddhist education, the past, present, and future. So, opening the inaugural session. Now the time is for reciting the Arambaka Gatha, and I would like to invite Most Venerable Vice Chancellor Nayakatera and the respected professors for reciting the Arambaka Gatha. Please join you all with me. You for joining the reciting the Arambaka Gatha. It's time to welcome you all participate in the conference. The welcome speech is delivered by Venerable Vijay Sir, the conference of the USL IBC 2022, Senior Lecturer of the Department of Social Sciences and Comparative Studies, and the Director of the Center for Quality Assurance.
We were about to commemorate our 50th anniversary in 2019. However, we couldn't achieve this task because of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Therefore, we decided to organize several remarkable events for belated commemoration of the 50th anniversary in this year. But unfortunately, we had to postpone all these events because of the prevailing social and economic crisis in the country. However, with the blessing of Senior Professor, Most Venerable Kanategoda Saddharatana Nayakathera, Vice Chancellor of the University, we got a chance to reschedule our international conference. Especially, I want to mention Pataragoda Sumana, Chief Organizer of the conference, and the members of the steering committee on this matter. I am happy to let you know that as a result of this effort, this conference today has become fruitful. The theme of the conference is Buddhist education, past, present, and future. We think, being the one and only university in the Southeast Asia that is dedicated mainly for the Buddhist monks' higher education, we have a key responsibility to investigate, to make a forum to discuss this topic. In flourishing our aim, we received 125 abstracts, but we had to select only 70 abstracts for this conference under the guidance and comments given by our reviewers. However, it is a pleasure to let you know that the papers will be presented in several languages, Sinhala, English, Tamil, and Pali, at the conference today. All of you have been fortunate to participate and Dean, Faculty of Buddhist Studies, Venerable Galwave Vimalakanti Thera, Dean, Faculty of Languages and Cultural Studies. Venerable Sirs, I appreciate your cooperation as the Deans of the University for the success of this conference. I would like to extend my warm welcome to Chair Professor Venerable Kanangami Rahula Thera, the Proctor of the University. Venerable Sir, I highly appreciate your support for the success of this event. Venerable Kalanchi Ratana Siritera, Director, Postgraduate External Degrees and Extension Courses. Venerable Kirama Vimala Thisa, Head of the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies. Venerable Udugampala Gunananda, Head of the Department of Social Sciences and Comparative Studies. Venerable Kahatagastigiri Dhammaratana, Head of the Department of Practical Buddhist Studies. Venerable Baladura Indra Jyoti, Head of the Department of Languages. Venerable Sirs, your role as the members of the advisory board make this conference success, and you all are warmly welcome for the inauguration. I cordially welcome Professor G. Somaratna. Sir, I think you are the most suitable scholar to deliver keynote speech on this topic because I believe that you are one of the leading Buddhist scholars in the world at present. You made this conference prestigious with your availability as the keynote speaker. Mr. Yudit Dodanwala, Registrar of the University, Mr. Vaiketisa Bandara, Acting Librarian of the University, Mr. G.R. Tushan Anuruddha, Bursar of the University, and all the non-academic executive officers. Dear sirs, madams, your supports help us to make this event a success. I am pleased to welcome you all. Members of the council, members of the Senate and the faculty boards of the university, all the academics, all the members of the non-academic staff, and our dear students of the university, you all are welcome for this inaugural session. We have some foreign scholars from India, China, and Myanmar. Your online joining today gives a great encouragement for us. Here it is a privilege for me to welcome you all. All the scholars representing many universities in Sri Lanka, as well as independent scholars, you all made this conference reality by sending your abstracts and joining here as presenters and participants. Therefore, I am delighted to welcome you all. Especially, I extend my cordial welcome to all the session chairs and conveners of the session. I take this opportunity to welcome all the members of the steering committee and various organizing committees. Venerable sirs, it is your dedication make this conference fruitful. Finally, we as the BUSL family warmly welcome you all to the 7th International Online Buddhist Conference. I hope that you all will enjoy today and get the maximum result from this conference. Have a great conference and great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Venerable Karandagole Vijitithissatera. Keynote address is the remarkable event of the inauguration session of this international conference. Introduction to the keynote speaker will be delivered by Senior Lecturer Venerable Baladura Indra Jyoti, Head of the Department of Languages, Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, and the Joint Secretary of BUSL IBC 2022.
Greetings to everyone. It's my humble pleasure to address you all in this beautiful morning. And I believe that all of you will pay your special attention as now I am about to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor G. A. Somaratna. Most Venerable Senior Professor Kanattegoda Saddharatana Nayaka Thera, the Vice Chancellor of the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, Venerable Dr. Kadavathgama Piratana Thera, Dean, Faculty of Buddhist Studies, Venerable Galve Vimalakanti Thera, Dean, Faculty of Languages and Cultural Studies, Venerable Proctor, Kanangamu Rahula Thera, Venerable Directors, all the academic members, Registrar, Acting Librarian, Bursa, administrative and non-academic staff members, dear colleagues, students and delegates. Professor Somaratne is one of a few scholars in Sri Lanka who was born and educated in Sri Lanka and could spread his fame to the international community as a Buddhist scholar. Later, he earned his BA Honours First Class in Buddhist Philosophy from the University of Kelaniya in 1986. In 1988, he entered Northwestern University, USA, for his master's studies. I must highlight that it's one of the most highly reputed and prestigious university in North America. There he achieved MA in Religious Studies in 1991. Later, at the same university, he completed his PhD in 1993 after submitting the dissertation Freedom of Mind, a study of the Buddhist concept of Vimukti in Pali Nikayas. He started his teaching career as a Pirivan teacher at Parama Dhammacetiya Pirivana in 1986. In 1996, he became a lecturer at Musaki International College in Japan. There he was promoted as associate professorship later on in 2000. Afterwards, he returned to Sri Lanka in 2001 as a senior lecturer at the University of Peradeniya and then became a professor at the same university between 2004 to 2007. He was the head of the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies at the University of Peradeniya. In 2010, he was again invited to Thailand as a co-director of the Dhammachai Tripitaka project at the Dhammachai Institute in Thailand. In 2014, he won the blessed opportunity of become assistant professor and later on associate professor at the Center of Buddhist Studies of Hong Kong University. From 2018 onwards, he was appointed as a chairperson of master's degree program in this Buddhist center. He still remains as a professor of Buddhist studies at the same center, illuminating many knowledge seeking students coming from every corner of the world. Professor Somaratne has published over 30 articles all over the world in highly reputed journals and celebrated books. If I mention only a few of them, Intermediate Existence and Highly Fetters, the Pali Nikayas, published by Pali Text Society, Oxford, Felt and Reckoned, Twofold Dukkha in Early Buddhism, published by International Journal of Buddhist Thought and Culture in Korea, Buddhist Moral Framework from Family and Social Economy, published by Buddha Dharma Center of Hong Kong. He has published a rich corpus of academic works. I like to mention only a selected few titles for your attention. He contributed new editions of Sangyukta Nikaya published by Pali Text Society in 1998. Buddha's Teaching, a Buddhist Analysis, and an Introduction to Early Buddhist Society are many famous books of his published in Singapore. We are honored to invite such a global-minded, highly esteemed scholar to our 7th International Conference of Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka. I welcome you, sir. Once again, all the members of this university, I invite you to deliver your keynote speech. Thank you. Thiruvan Saranai.
Venerable Sirs, Professors, Venerable Deans of the faculties, and of course, Venerable Vice Chancellor of the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, and Venerable Dean of faculties, and friends, ladies and gentlemen. So I express my gratitude to organizers for the invitation to deliver the keynote speech of this important conference on Buddhist education, organized to mark the 50th anniversary of the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka. I would like to express my special thanks to Venerable Professor Kanategoda Sataratanan Anunayakatera, the Vice Chancellor of the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, and Venerable Karandagolle Vijitastisa, the conference chair, who gave me a wonderful introduction to me. Thank you, Venerable. So, Venerable Baladora Indra Jyoti Thera and Venerable Panamure Chandima Thera, the conference joint secretaries. So, thank you, all Venerables, for giving me this opportunity to speak and share a few ideas with you at this conference. When we place the term Buddhist before education, we seem to think of an educational system exclusively of Buddhists, for the Buddhists, or by the Buddhists, grounded on a Buddhist philosophy of education, also denoting a uniform Buddhist education that works for all Buddhists. However, as there are many Buddhisms connected to individual cultures and philosophies, one uniform Buddhist education that works for all seems not correct. Instead, we have a multiplicity of Buddhist educational systems. So therefore, when discussing Buddhist education, we may want to specify what form of Buddhist education that we are talking about. Even within a single Buddhist education, we see at least two systems. One for the lay Buddhists and the other for the monastic members. So this is due to the differences between the educational goals of the two groups. The laity seek to build a successful worldly life that assures sensual pleasure in this life and a heavenly birth next. The monastics are those who have renounced lay life and secular goals and have dedicated their lives to pursue the Buddhist path to liberation vigorously and rigorously. Considering this difference, the Buddha provided an informal moral education to the lay converts. This moral education was expected to be complementary to their materialistic aims. For the monastics, he introduced a formal program of learning, understanding, and experiencing the true nature of things, resulting in disenchantment, detachment, and cessation of suffering. In these two educational systems, we could observe three characteristics. First, they are education systems for adults. Second, they constitute both the formal education and a continuous self-education. So education will not end with the formal education, but it is expected to be continuous self-education. The third, they are not meant to serve as a single uniform education appropriate to all categories of adults. The Buddha's formal educational program targeted mainly the renouncers of early India, who questioning the meaning of life and giving up jobs, worldly possessions, and pleasures, voluntarily adopted a religious lifestyle, seeking a solution to the existential suffering. Therefore, his monastic educational program is radically incompatible with that of the modern secular education that is founded on Western science, Western philosophy, and religion. The goal of early Buddhist monastic education was to transform the mundane monastics to supramundane ones, those who either have already ended or are working on ending the existential suffering by being free from all bondage to worldly life, pleasures, and existence. The cessation of suffering is to be achieved by cessation of bhava or self-continuity, ceasing to exist as a self or an I. For the latter to be done, one must stop ceasing or creating a self in one's experiential structure by undertaking its not-selfness nature. To understand not-selfness, it requires to have a full penetration into the true nature of our being, the entire experiential structure, the five clinging aggregates, and to see them as conditioned, dependently arising and ceasing, impermanent, suffering, and not self. As this is the aim, early monastic education considers the knowledge of the true nature of things as the most valued knowledge that students should aspire and acquire. As this knowledge is to be acquired by focused observation, category formation, analysis, and synthesis, it considers application of dependent co-arising and serenity and insight meditation practices as the most valued skills to be learned by students. As this learning and training is to be done through formal and gradual educational process, living in a community of like-minded persons, tolerance, friendship, kindness, and sharing have become the most cherished values. Every Buddhist education thus concentrates on the knowledge of the Buddha's teaching, the Dhamma, and its implementation, application, or the practice. The teaching directly addresses the basic human question, what am I? The practice deals with the basic human concern, how should I live? And what should I do? Of the two, knowledge comes first. The practice naturally follows. As the Jains say, first knowledge of the world, then compassion for it. We must first know what is life before deciding how should we live. If we know what we are, we can decide how we should live. In this sense, the present moral degradation of our society could be traced to the lack of knowledge of the Buddha's teaching, the Theravada philosophy and psychology. If people truly understand the teaching, they will behave well. One fundamental question is, what is suffering? The answer to this question is the first noble truth. This, my experiential world, is suffering. Or, in brief, the 5 clinging aggregates are suffering. The suffering or dukkha is to be fully understood by classifying our experience into 5 clinging aggregates, into consciousness and name and matter, or into senses, sense objects, and things dependent upon senses and sense objects, such as feeling, perception, configurations, or mental formations, and consciousness, and seeing all these as impermanent. As Buddha says, what is impermanent, that is suffering. What is suffering, that is not self. The movement from what to how is the natural way to learn. Children acquire knowledge by constantly asking the question, what is this, Mama? Papa, what is that? However, when we are adults, our arrogance prevents us from asking what questions. We pretend to know everything, and hence, surpassing the first natural question, we quickly move to the second and worry about how to live and how to do without much success. The question, what am I, or what is this thing called self, is significant, for it makes solving a series of other questions that are paramount to our social coexistence as human beings too. These questions are, what is the other? What is nature? What is universe? Furthermore, these questions take us to why questions. Why is this universe like this? Why am I here? Why I am suffering? So the reflections on them make us knowledgeable about ourselves, others, and the world. The questions regarding oneself and the other make us realize that I exist by the kindness of others, that I live in nature, and that I am an individual existence in the universe. They make us realize the value of life, the wonder of life, the rarity of life. This realization gives us courage to live well, perceiving difficulties of life as challenges that we should overcome. They make us realize that there is value and purpose in human life and human existence. The Buddha uses the word kanakicca, meaning gaining the opportunity, to show the value of our human life. So value of our present human life. Though some talk about gaining the opportunity, do they know what is opportunity and what is inopportunity? The true opportunity to a person is to be born as a wise and intelligent person at a time and place a Buddha has arisen in the world and is teaching the Dhamma, or his teaching is available. Having obtained the human state, when the good Dhamma has been well proclaimed, those who do not seize the moment have let the right moment to slip, as an Anguttara Nikaya passage tells us. For many inopportune times are spoken of, occasions obstructive to the path. For it is only sometimes on occasion that the Tathagatas arise in the world. If one has directly encountered them, fortune rarely gained in the world. If one has obtained the human state and the good Dhamma is being taught, for a person desiring his own good, this is incentive enough to strive. How can one understand the good Dhamma so that the moment won't slip by? For those who miss the moment, grieve when they are reborn in hell. One here who has failed to obtain the fixed course of the good Dhamma will come to regret it for a long time, like a merchant who has missed a profit. So we think there is a world outside us, where other people, things, nature, and the entire universe exist. However, as Buddhism teaches, the world that we experience is a creation of our own. I mean, experiential world. Each one of us creates a world of ourselves. Being enclosed in that world, we cannot possibly leave it. The world could be seen in two ways, as a tangible world and as an abstract world. Each person creates the tangible world of experience. We think we live in a world common to all. However, each one of us is enclosed in a universe of his or her own experiences. For instance, if I am in a bad mood, my world of experience has already become gloomy. If I have a headache, my world of experience has already become painful. No other person can directly experience my pleasant or unpleasant feelings. If my mind changes, the world also changes. If I or myself remains, we cannot get out of the world of our private experiences. As we have never been outside of its confines, how can we really talk about a world outside of ourselves? Therefore, outside world is merely a concept, an abstract world, even if it exists. Everything I experience exists as determined by my mind. I am shut up within a world of experience that I create, and it is impossible for me to get outside of it. Therefore, I cannot directly see or touch what is truly external to me. The Buddha analyzes the world of our experience, the tangible world, into 5 thinking aggregates. So we always experience the internal or external world as name and matter, nama rupa. With every experience, one is conscious of a dyad of name and matter. Internal name and matter, for example, I, when I am seeing something, and external name and matter, the sight. The name and matter is synonymous with cognized object, phenomenon, material object, and appearance. So as this chart shows, so you can see the consciousness, then feeling, perception, mental configurations, collectively called nama or name, and then the matter. So really we are conscious of matter because what exists is basically matter. And when we experience matter, really we cannot experience matter directly. So we have to experience matter together with name. That means together with my feeling, together with my perceptions, together with my mental formations or sankhara or intentions. So I cannot really perceive pure matter because I always need to be conscious of matter as it appears to me as name and matter or nama rupa. So in an experience, one is conscious of both internal matter and external matter. So internal matter is basically my body. So it could be bodily part like eye or ear. And external matter is a sensory object. So therefore, Buddha says, in an experience, I am conscious of a dyad of or two types of name and matter because I am experiencing or I am conscious of two types of matter. So this whole experience is basically what I call myself and my world. Myself depends on my world and my world depends on myself. There is no really escape for one. So one cannot exist by itself. So just like we always have to be conscious of name and matter, the consciousness plus name and matter. As in the dependent arising formulation, Buddha explains, depending on name and matter, consciousness in the Mahanidana Sutta, and depending on name and matter, consciousness. So depending on consciousness, name and matter, depending on name and matter, consciousness. So they exist together. So there is no really, we cannot really talk about pure consciousness or pure matter. So the normal world that we recognize to be so is the result of a consensus among ourselves. Truly, we do not know what is normal and what is abnormal. The life that I recognize as myself and you, the other to myself, the nature, which envelopes both self and other, and the universe, which comprises everything. Do all these really exist outside of me? Am I not experiencing a mere construction of my own mind? In truth, we are a single person, a single world, for we are unable to get beyond the confine of ourselves to see things objectively. Why cannot we escape the captivity of ourselves? The reason is that our experiences are characterized by an I, or self. We are incapable of evading our own mind. So when I use the word mind in a broader sense. Subsequently, all of our activities end up centered on self or I. A charitable act done for another is merely an act done for oneself. Can we really love others in a selfless and disinterested way? When we love others, we expect them to return our love. When we drive, we expect those who go before or come in front in the opposite direction give way to us. As the train comes to the platform, we run to get the seat. Everywhere, I is subtly performing its job. Is it really good to live life through such actions? Does this self or I actually exist? We conceive that we do exist and we do actions centered on this I or self. Still, does such a self in fact exist? For the Buddha, the self is only a concept or word or mirage. Early Buddhist education clearly details the human psychology of this human nature and human experience. It shows how with every sensory experience, we experience a fresh set of 5 clinging aggregates and subtly consider them as this is mine, this am I, and this is myself. For we are ignorant of the true nature of things, this process of clinging occurs as it is meant to operate so. So our experience is driven by a triple craving. Craving to enjoy more sensuality, craving to continue more as this present I or self who enjoys sensuality, and craving to discontinue as this present I or self who lacks sensuality. While constantly discriminating things into likes and dislikes, we cling to what we like and becomes repulsive to what we dislike. Through this dualistic attitude and approach to things, we generate more suffering and unwholesome karma than their opposites. Sensuality is a growing psychological drive to which we are always attracted. When we are young, as the Buddha points out, our senses are at prime, and they allow us to obtain sensuality in whatever type. When we grow up, the faculties mature still further. The youth enjoys himself provided and endowed with the 5 codes of sensuality, with sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. So on seeing a sight with the eye, Buddha says, this person, mundane person, lusts after it if it is pleasing, dislikes it if it is unpleasing. In such a situation, to renounce sensuality, the youth requires a higher motivation derived from understanding. The Buddha admires the young who leave behind sensuality to adopt a monastic life because they are doing something hard to do at their young age. Only those who have a great confidence in his teaching could renounce the world. For without such a confidence, they would never be able to leave behind sensuality. In one occasion, Buddha says, monks, beings for the most part are captivated by sensuality. When a clansman has forsaken the sickle and carrying pole and gone forth from the household life into homelessness, he can be described as a clansman who has gone forth out of faith. For what reason? Sensuality, whether of this or that kind, can be obtained by a youth. If we can see the danger in sensuality, as one Sutta Nipata was pointed out, as taught by the Buddha, and see the safety in renunciation, then we will strive to attain Nibbana. The intelligent and vigilant worldly person may see that sensuality ends in suffering. But still, there is nothing he can do about it, because sensual pleasure is the only refuge from suffering that he is aware of as a mundane person. When he is experiencing sensual pleasure, he craves for more sensual pleasure, sometimes of a different variety. And when he is not experiencing sensual pleasure, then also he craves for sensual pleasure. Thus, in the structure of the mundane person's experience, whether he is experiencing sensual pleasure or not experiencing sensual pleasure, Hence, these roles and careers fall under Kammatic paradigm, in contrast to Nibbanic paradigm. The monastics take pride in performing these roles, for they are in a well-operated scene formation of mundane persons into noble persons or enlightened ones. As the Buddha and his disciples were enlightened beings, they could lead others to be enlightened. As Theravada has switched sense, if educators are mundane, output supramundane. As Theravada current to see whether it is on the right track, whether it produces monastic members who can perform those intended tasks. Education requires a clear philosophical reflection. If the education system is to produce adult monastics fit to perform the basic roles as members of a Kammatic Buddhist community, then the current state of Theravada education is a success. However, even within it, many issues to be addressed. Are the teachers of the monastic education and the Dhamma school education, for example, aware of their educational mission? Do they understand the human nature of the young monastics and lay students, as discussed in the Buddha's teaching and or by modern science? Do they know the subject matter and the methods of learning and teaching? No doubt Theravada should take its education more seriously than it now does. It's more important as it recruits to its monastic system young children more than adults. Moreover, the monastic community is a powerful institution that shape our religious, social, economic, and political life of the people in general. Theravada educators therefore must receive training in modern secular and religious educational philosophies and psychologies too. They should be knowledgeable of metaphysics, epistemology, human nature, and ethics. So they should know what is real, what counts as nature, reality, feeling, and existence. Is reality given, or is it a product of individual and collective consciousness? Or is it what people are living through right now? Are humans determined by their environment? Or do they create their environment? What counts as human knowledge and how people come to know it? Can knowledge be discovered, or must knowledge be experienced created by and among individuals within their cultures? Or is knowledge grounded in power and social practices? They should reflect on such philosophical questions with the aim of finding the Theravada position to build their educational programs. Mastering all aspects of philosophy of education is not so easy. Currently, there are many bodies of thought, such as idealism, realism, pragmatism, behavioralism, existentialism, Marxism, and postmodernism, and various other religious philosophies, influencing our educational systems. Each body of thought has its own position of metaphysics, epistemology, human nature, and ethics. For example, the idealist metaphysical position tends towards supernaturalism rather than to naturalism of the realist. His epistemological position tends towards faith rather than reason of the realist. His human nature tends towards dualism rather than reductive materialism of the realist. His ethics tends towards altruism and egoism rather than egoism and predation of the realist. Similarly, the pragmatism, behaviorism, and Marxism often agree with the realist position of naturalism, reason, and reductive materialism of realism. For example, concerning metaphysics, realism, pragmatism, behaviorism, existentialism, Marxism, and postmodernism accept naturalism as against supernaturalism of idealism. So we can go on more. Our familiarity with the philosophical standpoints matters when deciding and prioritizing educational values, such as knowledge, method, and skills, individualism, socialization, and morality. They matter when determining what subjects are to be taught, what teachers are to be hired, what values are to be taught as indispensable, particularly when time and budgetary constraints, as in today's Sri Lanka, demand prioritizing our values. The philosophy of education informs the philosophical basis of an education system. Therefore, Theravada educator must be at least a sound Buddhist philosopher who loves Buddhist wisdom, or at least he or she should be philosophical. So with this, I would like to conclude my keynote speech. I hope my sharing is useful for you to reflect on at this conference. So this conference is, in my opinion, is an important event in today's Sri Lanka to reflect on the Buddhist education. So I wish the conference a great success. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, so I wish this conference a great success.
Thank you very much, Professor G. Somaratna.
Mic off.
Well, thank you very much, Professor G. Somaratna from University of Hong Kong. For illuminating our conference, knowledge and experience on Buddhist teaching and Buddhist education, and we appreciate your contribution to make our third international conference a success. So, securing the time for the sessions of presenting research outcomes of respected scholars. Now let's join with the vote of thanks delivered by Venerable Dr. Panamure Chandimatera, Joint Secretary of the USA LIBC 2022.
Good morning, everyone. Senior Professor, Most Venerable Kanatheguru Saddharatana Arunayakathera, Vice Chancellor of Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, Deans of Faculties, all the heads of the departments, professors, senior lecturers and lecturers, registrar, bursar, librarian and all the executive, academic and non-academic staff of the university, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honor and privilege to get the opportunity to conclude the inauguration of the International Online Conference on Buddhist Education, Past, Present and Future. Certainly, this is a great day. We would be able to get all opportunity to make ourselves aware with Buddhist education. But organizing an international online conference is a challenging task. This cannot be possible without great preparation support from every corner and blessing. Now it is time to convey our gratitude to all who have extended their support to make this event successful. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express my profound gratitude to Senior Professor Most Venerable Kanathegowda Saddharatana Anunayaka, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Lanka, for his blessing and motivations. Venerable Sirs, we are grateful for your support and encouragement. I would like to highly appreciate to the leadership, encouragement and extensive support provided by the conference chair, Senior Lecturer Venerable Karandugolle Vijitatissa Thera, the Director of Center for Quality Assurance in our university. I have no words strong enough to express my gratitude to Venerable Wataragoda Sumana Thera, Chief Organizer of the conference, Venerable Baladura Indrajoti Thera, and Venerable Gomila Gunalankara Thera, Joint Secretary of and members of conference committees. They have been constant supporters and real performers of their responsibilities. On behalf of the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka, and organizing committee of International Online Conference, I convey my regards and hearty thanks to our keynote speaker, Professor G.A. Somaratna, University of Hong Kong, for sharing the valuable knowledge and experiences with us. I take this opportunity to thank the reviewers for rendering their valuable comments on time and help to improve the quality of papers to be presented. I also take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to the deans of the faculties and all the heads of the departments of Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka for their incredible leadership, timely and proper advice to make the conference a success. I would also like to thank the registrar, Mr. U.D. Dodangwala, and the bursar, Mr. G.R. Tushan Anuruddha. Dear sirs, your support that help us to make this event a success. I am also thankful the administration and general for rendering us with all possible logistic support toward organizing this event, and all the session chairs, conveners, research scholars, and our students for their enthusiastic participation. I would like to convey my thanks to Venerable Pahalatalavi Sumanasiri, one of our former students, and his media team for rendering their support for live broadcasting of the inauguration social medias. Finally, I would like to convey my gratitude to all the faculties who have greatly helped us in organizing this conference. Thank you very much. May the Triple Gem bless you.
Thank you very much, Venerable Panamure Chandimathera, for your vote of thanks. Now it's time to wind up the inaugural session. But before winding up this session, I kindly invite you all to open your cameras to take a screenshot as a memento for this international conference. So, dear participants, please switch on your cameras for the screenshot.